So to call greed bad is also a waste of energy on our side. So don't call it good, don't call it bad, just ignore it. And ignoring, you select your own path of spirituality, and on that path the greed just disappears. And you don't even, and when you go along that path, sometimes you realize that certain things used to aggravate don't aggravate you anymore. You didn't even try to do it, it just happens. The peace just comes. Now, let's go a little further. So far we realized that the source of suffering was the greed. Greed made us suffer, all these things, right? Now, who do we blame it on though? Do we blame it on the objects? What is wrong with a diamond? Only when we attach a sense of value to that diamond, it becomes an issue. Remember the story of Mahatma who was sitting there in his samadhi, and then two guys come in and he saw a piece of diamond sitting in front of him all of a sudden, and he says, what do I have to do anything with that? So all of a sudden one horseman comes in, he looks at it and he says, oh my God, I got the diamond. And as he was picking up, another horseman saw him and they fight. They kill each other to death. The diamond still sitting there and the sant is still in samadhi. So the power of the material world is only if we give it to it. So that source of the power was also you. It had nothing to do
with the diamond or the samadhi.
We can say, okay, greed is because of all this money that people are running after, this and that. It's not the money, it's you. So the source of suffering was also you. Source of greed was also you.
There's a saying on this, no? The value of value is only valued if you value the value.
Right, there you go. It's all up to you.
It's all up to you.
It's all up to you. So let's go a little deeper. When you say that greed is bad and it made me suffer, your suffering was internal and it was real, no question about it. You suffered because of the greed, because you failed. But the desire to succeed with using the greed to gain something was yours. So who actually got hurt? You. It was your desire to succeed using the greed as a weapon to achieve something in the material world was the cause of suffering. Right? So that means somewhere deep inside you have the source of suffering. Now you remember the story of Samudra Manthan, when the ocean was churned, right? The first came vish, the poison came out first. But then later on, amrut came out. So that's fine. The cause of suffering, now you understand, is all inside. So go deeper. All you have to do is go deeper, and wherever the wish came out, amrut will also come out. So going deeper is meditation. So the source of suffering was you, and it was your notion that somewhere along the line I will be able to generate a desire and get something from this life. So your desire to lean on the life was your own notion. The notion to fall on the life is falling on someone else for your own pleasures. Whenever you have desire, you have to rely on the life, desire of material object. If I am sitting here and I want to make $10, even for $10, I have to work or steal or rob somebody, whatever. But the life, as we call life, the sansar, has to give it to me. So my reliance on sansar for even $10 required so many efforts from me. So it was my desire. So my thinking that I can fall back on the life anytime I want and get whatever I want is the notion that is at fault. Because you are infinite. When you realize your infinite nature, when you realize that you are nothing but Paramatma, you are the soul. At soul level, what can you desire? You are totally Purnamada. You are totally 100% full. When you reach that state of fullness, why would you have any desire? Of what? You will still act in the world, but without any desire. You're acting because you are here. Might as well make best of it. But as long as you have that in mind, I'm never going to take anything with me. And whatever I make. Whatever I don't. Fine. So the notion that was created in our mind that we can fall back onto the society and claim whatever we want. And we call that sansar kamdenu. That kamdenu exists within. Desire of all desires. It's more powerful than all the desires. But it's the creation of those notions robs us of our peace. Now whether it's towards the greed, towards the drugs, whatever, doesn't matter. So when all the notions drop, samadhi happens. And it's tough to even comprehend. The notion of duality also disappears at some point. You become non-dual. Because as we see, so I consider the Jainism as one step underneath the Advait, because the matter and soul has to exist side by side. The notion of duality still exists. But notion is what? It's the creation of the mind. When you drop all the notions, the duality does not exist. And you see Paramatma everywhere. So there is a dhyan, dharma, and samadhi. Dhyan is when you go within. Dharma is where you start seeing Paramatma everywhere. And samadhi is everywhere. Totally. You are totally blank. Outside just does not exist. Chaman does not exist. Zulf, mukh se hat gayi. Zulf ko hata lo mukh se, right? So the notions are creations of the mind. So in reality, we know that death is always followed by birth. Birth is followed by death. So there is always a sequence. So the same sequence brings you the pain and suffering. Deal with it. Don't run away from it. Don't do greed just because you've been told not to be greedy. Look at it. Analyze it. Look at it face to face. And then make a decision. That is the uselessness of your exercises in the material world that is at fault. So once you do this, you will start realizing that Kasturi Kundal Base, the Kasturi Mrug, all along he kept on banging onto the trees, looking for some fragrance from somewhere. It was all within itself. So greed is not even worth for us to even think about it, whether it's good or bad. So whatever action that you do in life, you got to space yourself, right? And then take a decision. And then whatever decision you will take, that decision would have been taken at the consciousness level. Because you disappear at that time. Stopping milk, again to the same issue, right? If you stop it because it's high in cholesterol, or because it makes me gain weight, then you still thinking of your body. So you're still playing at the body level. You have not left the material plane. Only when you give it up for the benefit of the cows, then you're acting at the spiritual level. So whatever you do in life, if the spiritual force is there, and that's the only force there, then the actions will be always correct. When you want say you tell your kids to do something, but if you mean well behind, then you have a force of spirituality. So, and that justifies the actions. Now, if we look at the greed as a source of winning something, and if we understand from spiritual point of view that, and once we meditate, we realize our spiritual self is the only thing that really exists, then we realize that ego is fake, because greed is ego driven, and that's why it cannot achieve anything substantially. And when I say achieve some substantially, is the true lasting happiness. Whatever happiness you will achieve from greed is created by the matter, and matter is finite, just like everything else: birth, growth, decay, and death. So all these finite objects cannot bring you infinite pleasure. Why? Because they themselves are not infinite. The same object that will give you the pleasure now, 2 days or 2 years later, is not going to give you the pleasure. And then you will have to look for another object. Your race will never be over. So when we realize when that matter is fake, matter is just an avran over consciousness. Behind that is nothing but pure consciousness. The frontage, the facade, becomes useless. The consciousness behind becomes more important. So when we realize the futility of this kind of life, then our journey within will start. I'm 35, which is not here, so I guess.
Yeah, we can continue.
So, if you really analyze it, like we talked earlier, this sansar is nothing but constant struggle of the egos. Like I said, I'm striving to achieve something, you trying to achieve something, everybody, all the people trying to achieve something, get together, create interactions, and that generates the sansar, basically, right? So, it's a constant struggle of egos. Now, in the material world, what happens is, whenever some egos win, it always happens at the cost of other egos. When Alexander acquired so many empires to fulfill his ego, countless people's egos were destroyed when they had their desires to have a peaceful life with their family, whatever. Or maybe somebody was trying to make bigger farms or whatever, all of a sudden Alexander comes and swipes off everybody's. So sansar is interactions of egos. It's really nothing more than that. So sansar cannot produce anything substantial. It can produce hydrogen bomb or atom bombs to destroy each other. It cannot achieve something substantial that is meaningful, that can give you lasting happiness. Xbox and all these things will give you short lasting happiness, but after half an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, you're bored again. So we have to realize that something is beyond this sansar. We have to go beyond the facade, and beyond that facade is the dunya of bhav. Bhav is not relying rather on the material things. 2 o'clock in the morning, son comes home, mom, make some food for me. You have no problem. Somebody invites the guest, 2 o'clock in the morning, forget it, I'm not getting out of bed. So bhav is where the pleasure is. There is so much pleasure. And the bhav is the world that you want to go into, beyond the world of materialism.
It
Right?
has no value. That's what it is.
Absolutely. Is it something that you will always cherish? Your son may grow up and go to college and never see you again, but you still remember, maybe he doesn't care, but but for you there was a pleasure. So we always judge the happiness and unhappiness from material standpoint of view. If somebody comes and tell me that, okay, this guy lost $1 million in stock market, you feel all of a sudden say, oh my God, that's so bad, right? What if the life he was living before was a horrible life, having so much money, he was spending on crazy things, getting all these diseases, who knows, and fighting, and all the people around him fighting for the money, trying to share with him, wife divorcing, kids wanting money, all these things, and now all of a sudden he doesn't have anything. He could be the happier guy. Who knows? Why do you say it's so bad, right?
Nobody's chasing him.
Right, exactly. Like Ramakrishna Paramhans, with his sishyas, he was sitting there once. This is very interesting. He looked at a chill, kite, was carrying the piece of meat, and all the other kites were after him. It just, wherever it went, all the kites were trying to grab that piece of pie. And in the process, it kept on going from one place to another place, kept on flying for 10-15 minutes. Finally, either the piece dropped or he gave it up, whatever. The piece dropped, all the other kites went after that. And he was sitting on the tree, comfortably and quietly. So that kite, he looked at it, so it was all about the piece of meat. It had nothing, the vengeance was not within the kites. The vengeance was all about that rut for achieving something. That greed of achieving things in the matter. That's how the whole society operates. And it operates in our brain in such a deep level that happiness, unhappiness, also we have started thinking in those terms. Somebody gains something, that's good. Somebody loses something, it's so bad. Somebody's spouse dies, we feel so, oh my God, his spouse died. Well, the spouse could be the worst spouse in life. Maybe it's not good for him. We don't know. It's just we don't know. We don't know what he's feeling at the spiritual level. He may be the happier guy. Anything is possible, right? So whatever happiness matters is at the spiritual level. At material level, things may change hands all the time. That is a fixed pie. There is no more than certain amount of dollars being printed, right? So whatever I get are always at the cost of somebody else's giving up. Whether they want to give it up or not is another story. My ego will win against somebody else's ego. It's a marketplace. There is an exchange taking place all the time. There cannot be true happiness. We are still living at the Rajas level. Tamas is where we're receiving all the pleasure. Rajas, where we're exchanging things. There cannot be any pleasure. I did something for you, I want a reward. Here, I'm waiting. I want something. There is no pleasure like I want to do something for you. That's okay. I don't want it. I did it because I wanted to do it. Out of my inside. It makes me happy, so I will do it. So, at the Rajas level, there is not gonna be happiness. Sansar is marketplace. Like it or not, every single relationship at the market level. You do this much for me, so I'll do this much for you.
Yeah, I guess like Vijay Bay says, happily do things rather than do things for becoming happy.
Saying is very easy, but to reach that state of happiness, you have to give up all these things and you have to realize the futility of this marketplace. Futility of sansar. There is always an exchange. And when we realize that there's something beyond that, and you do enough, go spend enough life in a spiritual way, then you start recognizing that there is a happiness there. And then you start becoming happy. And when you are happy, then you act. But it's, like I said, one sentence is very deep with meaning though. So wherever there is ego, and this is all about ego, the whole sansar is about ego, there cannot be happiness. There cannot be lasting, permanent happiness. Wherever there is ego, samadhi is not. Samadhi is just not possible. And when I say not giving up the sansar, giving up understanding the sansar, you don't have to give up anything. You still keep doing the same thing, but at a different level of your mind. A lot of times people lose out in sansar and they go into sannyas because they lost out in sansar, because they didn't do so good. So they thought they will do better, and they do better because there is no investment in religions, right? They become pujaris and all those things, and then acharyas and all that, right? So, the thing is that, good morning, the beauty of life cannot be enjoyed as long as the business is there. If I am carrying out business with my son or my wife or my friend, there's never going to be enjoyment. The dance of life will never happen as long as we are at a business level, right? So, but that's what the sansar teaches you. The society teaches you nothing but business. But to enjoy the dance of life, you have to operate at the spiritual level. Because the thing is that whenever you're dealing with any operation of this society or the sansar, there is a goal. There is a goal somewhere along the line. Goal of making, getting happiness from someone else, or a goal of making some amount of money, whatever. The goal puts you in the future. But the dance of life is happening right now. The greed, the idea of perfection, all those things put you into the future. And the future means you are not here. And when you are not here, life, what is expressing in front of you, you're missing it. The time to be happy is here and
Right
now.
now.
All the dealings of this sansar is all about future. Forget about it. Understand the true workings of our intricate mind, and you can do it only when you meditate. When you meditate, you see all these subtle things. Talking about these subtle things to non-spiritual people has no value. My friend, whose wife died and all that, I was trying to give him a little bit of, spiritual lesson. And, oh, you are also into all these things? He doesn't care. So, that's how it is. So I guess so much for today. Since we start.
All right, good.
Right?